Hello and welcome to Why Medics Matter, a podcast for doctors by doctors. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Amie Burbridge.
And I'm Dr. Simon Fraser.
Simon, today we are going to reflect on an episode that Dr. Anna Baverstock joined us for, in which we were talking about becoming a new consultant. And I get asked this all the time, and one of the main challenges is job plans. Now, how do we get a job plan that we are happy with, that the department is happy with, that suits us, and that we feel that we've had some input into? Any words of wisdom?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was the person everybody went to after 6 months when they realized that the job plan didn't really reflect what they were doing. And moving to a job plan is completely different to being on a resident where you have rotas and stuff. And it's really, really important you understand it. Obviously, it's important you come into it with some flexibility. But I think what happens is we get a job plan that's written to get through a business case that then goes out for advert. And no doubt now it is very heavy DCC. So some people go, what's DCC? So that's the clinical bit, the direct clinical care bit. And sometimes we're left with job plans which are unbalanced. Don't give that time to get that, as Anna said, that really important stuff in. You know, let's be honest, we're here to work, we're paid by public money, and we have to do a lot of work, but we also need to develop and contribute to the wider NHS in different ways. So job planning is the thing that I think we neglect. Tell me anyway, before we flip into it, how did your first job plan, when you started your new post, a lot more recently than I did, how did your job plan discussion go when you started?
So when I first started it as a first consultant in my first sort of substantive post, I was really lucky because I really wanted to do 50% education, 50% acute medicine. And at that time, because the department didn't have any other substantive posts, actually I had quite a lot of flexibility within my job plan. However, times change. COVID happened and job plans changed. And I found that flexibility maybe isn't there as much as it was before. And I think that's what's echoed by a lot of people. In addition, we used to be recognised, I think, a lot more in our supporting professional activities, our SPA time, and that would be allocated appropriately. Now, we're all being limited to the certain amount of PAs we work in a week. Sometimes it's 10 PAs a week, but we often work a lot more.
There's a couple of different things there, isn't there? Which is, what is our total job plan? What we work in?
Yeah,
and that sort of friction point, particularly when we maybe have, expectations that the acute day would be 8 o'clock till 5, and every day that people are consistently working above 6. So there's a bigger issue there, which is almost, how do we ensure those timetable activities are captured? And so the first thing about a job plan is making sure you've got a very clear timetable. And sometimes some of us have hot weeks and cold weeks, and how you sort of analyze that and count that, and having really fair agreement on start and finish time that's realistic. Yes, we all will do occasionally the discretionary extra bit and finish a bit late, but we'd hope on some days then you'd get away really sharp, or maybe slightly early and hand over a bit earlier. Yeah. So I think people understand different components. You mentioned SPA there. Okay, so SPA is support and professional activity. And every doctor on a permanent post will have support and professional activity. Now, the national contract for SAS doctors is minimum of 1 SPA. And for many consultants, it's locally determined. Okay. And it's often determined as core SPA. What does core SPA mean? It means doing all the stuff you need for your professional development, wider learning, etc. Okay. What it doesn't mean is being an education supervisor. What it doesn't mean is being the rota coordinator. What it doesn't mean, research time. Okay. So we need to first understand what is your core SPA entitlement. And then the second is, how do I build up additional SPA? And how that additional SPA is fairly shared amongst the departments. So many years ago, departments would have team job planning, and there was real transparency about what everybody was on in terms of their clinical work, and people would take on different portfolios, and that's worked really well. Yeah. So one of the obvious ones is education supervision. Now, there is a nationally agreed definition of the time for education supervision, and it is 0.25 SPA per resident. Now, the national contracts don't recognise clinical supervision, which sometimes can be quite heavy. But what I would say is these are often locally negotiated, and there will be a job plan guidance in your trust. Look at it. Count what supervision you're doing, so make sure that's recognised. If you're taking on additional roles like the rota organiser, that could easily be 30 minutes to an hour, yeah? So quarter, 0.25 in SPA is generally 1 hour. Likewise, direct clinical care is 1 PA for 4 hours, Monday to Friday, 7 till 7. And anything outside 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. or weekends, 1 hour is... 1 PA is 3 hours. Okay, so it's really important. But people think direct clinical care is just the time you spend on the ward in outpatients. It's actually all of your admin related. And you need to have that really quick recognised, any MDTs, any patient consultations by telephone. So that's really important to understand the difference between direct clinical care and SPA. And there will be other things that come with the job, which are often called additional responsibilities or external roles, which may then come into that job plan. In terms of trying to get something that is transparent, I would encourage everybody in the department to be really open. I'd be really keen that often new colleagues come in the department are given the opportunities to be education supervisors and education responsibilities shared through, because it's really important that everybody has a balanced portfolio, that there's options for flexible delivery, and the job is rewarding, and that's what's going to keep people retained. And I think it probably needs to change at different stages of your career to recognise the different roles and responsibilities. Now, Amie, are you aware of annualisation? Does that mean much? You bet you are. Yeah. Go on, tell me what you know.
So annualisation, I would love an annualised job plan, but I don't have one at the moment. It doesn't necessarily work with maybe the acute specialties as well, but it's where over the course of your working weeks, which is 42 weeks actually, because 10 weeks are taken out for annual leave, study leave. And over those 42 weeks, you are expected to deliver a certain number of clinics, a certain number of on-calls, depending on specialty, might be weekends, evenings, hot weeks, cold weeks, and you deliver that within those 42 weeks, but it doesn't necessarily have to be delivered equally every week. So some people may deliver it in 3 months and then not have as much to do for the other 6 months. But it's how it's sort of spread out equally amongst the team. And I know teams who've done it incredibly successfully because it means that the job planning is open, it's more team-based, and everybody's much more aware, I guess, of what really is going on in the department and the expectations are.
Totally agree. And that week's really important. Even if your activity isn't spread, it's about knowing if I've got 1 PA for an outpatient clinic, then I'm expected to deliver 42 clinics that year.
Yeah, exactly.
If I don't take my study leave, that would be 44 weeks. And it's useful to keep a track of your clinics, because what I often find people put on extra clinics, and because the patient weight load, and they may charge for it, they may not charge for it, but it's actually saying if you're regularly doing extra clinics where you're being charged or not, that needs to be in the future job plan.
Absolutely, yeah.
And not get to the end of the year and say, well, I've done 10 extra, I now need pay. And if you haven't negotiated that, you're very likely that people would recognise that.
And I think it's important to remember with the clinic time and the ward time, you should always get admin time associated with that as part of DCC.
Absolutely.
So often, I might do 12-hour shift on the ward. I do need allocated admin time to help me to results, letters, and it's the same in clinics, isn't it? Different hospitals have different amounts allocated, but you should have admin time within your job plan.
And that should be transparent. and everybody should have in similar, and looking at the team, which was different departments have different levels of admin.
Yeah.
Based complex child development center may be different to a very general pediatric clinic. But there has to be that. And I think what I would say is really understand your timetable. Count the clinics, count the hours, make sure you've got admin, make sure you've got your SPA, make sure there's some flexibility and you build things in. And don't be afraid to negotiate. As Anna said, get a mentor, sense check of a department. It's easy for you to come in and feel grateful for what you've got. But I think, and often feeling you've got to repay clinics when you're off and end up doing 45, 50 clinics. We work hard enough without doing a lot of extra work.
And I think just to things that I've picked up as well over my time as a consultant is that if you are going to be having a job planning meeting, you need 6 weeks notice. So, your team can't say to you, oh, we're having a meeting tomorrow about your job plan. Oh, am I? You need to be able to be prepared. And secondly, the job plan structure is based around your appraisal. So the job planning is about what's good for you and what's good for the team, not just what's good for the team. And it's about compromising, coming to that agreement. And if you don't like the job plan, you can not sign it and you can mediate and have further discussions if you're not happy with what's...
really, really important to recognise, not to sign anything, come back for negotiations.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it will escalate within.
Yes.
But if you're still unhappy, you can escalate out with the division.
Yeah, don't be scared to do that.
Review.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And involve the BMA. And then if you think your working hours are well in excess of what's being recognised in the timetable, do a job plan diary. But do that with HR, do it with BMA, and prospectively agree. And if it crosses many of you, do it as a group. And then, provide evidence. And that's the only way you're going to identify the need for additional resources. Thank you,
Data
Amie.
collection.
Absolutely data. It's a quick run through the ins and outs of job planning. Look at your local job planning guidance. It is very detailed. It will have been agreed by your LNC, your local negotiating committee, with the BMA. So it'll be done by people with your interests and the service interests at heart. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody out there who's listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Why Medics Matter podcast. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.